We'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight. My name is John Davis. I'm the manager of member services here. Thanks to Anna Ely and thanks to Jennifer for kind of helping set everything up. They did the legwork on this. So again, thank you for coming. Exits. We hope we don't need them, but exit the door you came through, exit over here, and then exit behind Sean. Bathrooms are right down the hall this way. We have drinks and snacks in the back. Hopefully everybody, if you want to submit a question, we can. We have some question cards there. If you want to submit those, and we can come by and pick those up. The format for tonight's after hours will be a question and answer with the board candidates. Sean Battagler is our cooperative attorney. Sean is also the cooperative attorney for about 10 different co-ops in the state of Missouri. We have a list of questions, kind of a set list of questions. We're also taking questions from our members, and so we'll try to get through those as much as we can. We'll ask that the candidates limit their responses to 2 minutes. I'll be here in the back, and I'll kind of give you I'll give you the 10-second time frame on that. We will have quite a few questions, so this is just really a chance to learn about the candidates and where they stand on different issues that affect the cooperative. We'll have more information in our July issue, our annual meeting edition of Rural Missouri, and we'll also on our website we'll have all that information around that same time too. That issue comes out a little bit later. That issue will come out about the first full week of July instead of the end of June like it normally does. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. Am I on? What's that? Am I on now?
You're on now.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, welcome. We've not done one of these before, so I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do my best.
Hey, Steve Stone, nice to meet you. You almost got excluded.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'll wait till you come around.
Yeah.
Are you Dustin?
Yeah.
You're Misty. It's nice to meet you.
I was given some questions to ask each of you, and I think what I'll do is just go one by one, and then after the first question, maybe mix it up a little bit so that Steve doesn't have the first three. Let me ask you the first question. Would you please introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running for the board, and include in that how long you've been a member of the cooperative?
I'm Steve Stone. I'm from District 9. I've been a member of the cooperative as a kid all my life. As a paying member since about 1994 probably. I live down at Cape Fair, around the area, down around the lake. I have a wife and 2 kids that we raised down there, and those kids now have 4 grandkids, and they're all still in the area. So I am deeply rooted to this area. I've been on here 18 years, and so I care a lot about the co-op. I love the co-op. I love the communities that we all have, and I can't remember the rest of what I'm supposed to say. That's why I want to run for the co-op.
I think you did it.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm Daren Bowles. I'm serving in District 2. This is just completing my first term from Miller, and have a wife of be 33 years and this Friday. 2 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and first grandchild 6 months ago, so pretty exciting. I too started as a paying member in 1994. I didn't think of it the way you said it, but I've been a member, I guess, indirectly from my parents being Ozark Electric members my entire life, but a paying member since 94. Lived in 3 different places and was always still on Ozark Electric system. And why I'm running for the board, just completing my 3rd year, first term. I've really grown to appreciate that there's way more involved in running a co-op than just flipping a light on at your home. And I've really grown to appreciate it and just see the value in helping continue to serve if I'm so blessed by being elected. I'm concerned about this, not just for current members, but for future members and my kids and grandkids, and just it's an honor to serve as our collector.
My name is Mark Brown. I'm running for the board down in District 9. I live just about as far away from here as you can get. We're at the far south end of Stone County, on the opposite side of the lake from Steve. Down in my neighborhood, we've only got about 6 of us that are on the co-op down there. I'm married. My wife Becky and I have been married for 48 years. Just the other day, we had our anniversary. We've got 2 grown children. No grandkids yet, darn it. But they tell us they're working on it, whatever that means. Okay? Becky and I have been members of the co-op for over 30 years now. I retired last year after a 42-year stint in the co-op program. My entire professional career, I've been involved in the electric industry, the electric co-op industry specifically. Served at several different co-ops around the country, served on a couple of the national boards, and lots of statewide associations and those sorts of things. After retiring, though, I knew I really wasn't going to want to just sit down and get out of the program after being involved in it for that many years. And I actually spoke with Patrick several years ago at one of our national meetings, and told him that I was about to retire and that someday, if he didn't have any objections, that I would probably run for his board. And he's just, basically said, well, go for it. And here I am after those few years. Hope to be lucky. Don't have any particular axe to grind. And we'll talk more.
You're up. All right, so not that I'm competitive or anything, but I think I've got all you guys beat. I've been a paying member for 36 years, 1989.
No.
This is the part where you're all astonished, like there's no way you could have been a paying member. There's no way you look that old. But yes, it's true. And I'm afraid to say my jokes don't get any funnier than that. So my name is Misty Skinner, and I'm running for District 3. And so again, I live south of Halltown out in Lawrence County. Been there for 36 years, raised my kids there. I've got 2 kids. They're in their 30s now. And I've got 1 granddaughter who turns 14 next week, actually. So we've got a big party planned for next week. The reason I decided to run, so I've spent my career as an executive for software companies, like healthcare IT, I was a decade there, financial services. So I've always had big jobs. I have recently taken like a voluntary career break. Some people might call it retirement. I'm not quite sure yet, but probably retirement. And I really decided, have cruised along with Ozark Electric low these many years. And really, I think many of us kind of had a wake-up call last year, like, okay, maybe we need to be paying more attention to what's going on. I certainly hadn't been, so I started paying attention, and again, no axe to grind, but really do feel like I have the background, the experience, to really kind of walk in and be kind of turnkey on being able to read financials, being able to really hit the ground running on really serving the members. If there's one thing, I do want to say that I am about change. I do think that we need change from an Ozark Electric board and leadership. I think that the members kind of showed up last year at the annual meeting, and we voted 3 new board members in, and I think that says to everybody, hey, we want things to be different. I think we said, okay, we want things to be different. So I'm going to wrap up now, and I'll talk more about that later. And also, you are running in my district as well, so I'm really happy there's a choice.
Yep, so my name is Dustin Heath. I'm also in District 3. I live just south of here, right next to Lawrenceburg. I'm about 1.5 miles west of Lawrenceburg. I'm newer to the area. I've been in the area now for about 18 months and really enjoy it here. My background is engineering. I've been an engineer for close to 20 years in support of rural telephone and broadband cooperatives throughout the country. Originally from northern Montana, a small town up by the Canadian border, so I spent my whole life in support of different cooperatives in the engineering space, whether it's power or fiber optic cable broadband. I've been doing that for close to 20 years, run an engineering business, and most of my time is spent in finding efficiencies and things that people felt were already efficient enough. So I spend a lot of time in the weeds trying to figure out how to make it more efficient, and you know, I have a lot of experience I think might be valuable. I don't have an axe to grind either. I just felt that I had applicable experience that might be able to help benefit my neighbors and my new friends in southern Missouri.
Thank you. Daren, I'm going to start with you next, and I'm going to combine two questions that are somewhat related. What makes you think that you're qualified to serve on the board, and do you have experience serving on any other boards? And if you do, can you elaborate on that?
I do not have any other experience on any other boards. This is my first opportunity to serve. I'm sorry, what makes me qualified?
Yes.
Well, to serve, I believe, is an opportunity, the opportunity to serve those that I represent in my district. I feel very comfortable, confident dealing with people, especially even in conflict. And we all know that anything we do, I've been a pastor for 25 years and I've dealt with plenty of conflict. And not that I invite it or enjoy it, because I don't, but I don't mind dealing with hard issues. And I think a board is made up of, it's good to have a diverse board. And I think one thing that I bring to it is just practicality. I'm very conservative. I'm methodical in my, I don't speak too quickly. I think sometimes I don't speak quick enough, and someone will say something like, man, that's what I was going to say. And but I'm careful with what I say. I think deep and hard, and I study and research, and I want to have a good idea of what I say before I say it. So I believe in representing my district well, and however I realize that I represent the co-op as a whole, so it doesn't. I don't ask when someone brings a question to me in the community. I don't ask, hey, what district are you in? But I enjoy serving in this capacity.
Mark, same question.
Okay, as far as qualifications go, I mentioned a minute ago that I've got 42 years of real-life experience in the rural electric cooperative industry. I graduated at Oklahoma State with a degree in electrical power. Out of graduation, became a system engineer for a co-op in Kansas. 4 years later, they promoted me to their CEO, and I've been in senior management ever since. CEO of that co-op, went back home to Oklahoma, was CEO at a large co-op down in Oklahoma for a bit. Left there to join one of the national cooperatives in Washington, D.C. Worked a time out there, and then came back to the electric side of the business, and worked in Louisiana for 18 years at an electric cooperative down there. So I've got this in my blood. I've had lots of experience in that industry. As far as board experience, I've served on statewide boards. I've served on G&T boards, generation and transmission co-op boards. I've served on 2 national boards, one the National Rural Telecommunications Cooperative. Actually was an officer on that board, and then also I represented Louisiana at our national association, the NRECA, National Rural Electric Cooperative Association in Washington, D.C. So lots of board experience. Just as an aside, apart from the electric side of things, for the last 10 years before I retired last year, I served as the chairman of the board for our regional medical center in our parish down in Louisiana. So that was a pretty rewarding experience also.
Okay, Misty, same question.
Okay, so my experience comes from the corporate side. So I served on a board, a private equity board out of Charlotte, North Carolina for 10 years. So that meant a trip to Charlotte once a quarter to do board presentations, have the meetings. So accustomed to that setting. Those were very challenging meetings. Typically there was not always agreement, so definitely know how to navigate disagreement in those meetings and to just handle very high-level discussions. So why I think I'm qualified for this position is that, again, I've been in the district for 36 years. You're going to hear me say that a couple of times. So I've been a member, am keenly interested in returning our co-op. I feel like we've lost trust, right? Our members don't feel like they can trust the co-op like we used to. And I really want to work hard to listen to the members because we own it, right? To really listen and represent the owners on the board. And so that is really my sole focus as I look at my intent to be elected to the board is just to really have that focus of listening to all of you and having kind of a transparency and just talking through why decisions are made. We're never all going to agree, but we certainly can talk about how decisions were reached and why they were reached and listening to you for trusting you to give us feedback.
Thank you. Dustin?
So at different board levels, I serve on multiple industry boards today in the broadband world, whether it's the NTCA, which is the National Telecommunications Association. I serve on their associate member committee. I serve on the Broadband Montana committee as well. I serve on three academic advisory committees with different universities around the country, whether that's in their engineering programs, in their GIS programs, or customer experience. As far as qualifications, like I said, I've been an engineer for close to 20 years. I've designed a substation. I've sagged in pole lines and things like that up in northern Montana. Been an engineer for quite some time, and most of that requires using limited information to make the best possible decision for the stakeholders that I represent, and that would be, in this case, my constituents or the members of the co-op. So I think I've spent a lifetime doing that, so I think I can benefit folks in that regard.
Any questions?
Well, I've been on this board for 18 years, and I'm also on the MFA Incorporated board for the state of Missouri. But getting on this board 18 years ago, it wasn't like it is today, where you were thrust in and had to produce. Maybe it was a trust, or people didn't care. I don't know the members. I don't know what the difference is, but it is different today. But in those 18 years, I've learned a lot about the board members, and I've learned a lot about the members. The board members that I served under were very concerned, very thorough with their fiduciary responsibilities, and that's what was ingrained in me in my first 3 years of my training. It was listen to the members. It's always the members that we're thinking about in every decision, that you need to think about in every decision, but we have fiduciary responsibilities to the co-op, and those have to be weighed in there too. The co-op being defined as all the past members, the present members that we have, and looking for the future, looking to see what's best for those people. Now, we have tried to do that, and even last year when we thought the trust was there, almost thinking that silence was contentment on the members, really. Found out it wasn't, but I still don't think we have the majority of the membership involved with what we do. I think it's whenever we step on somebody's toes, those people get involved. My goal right now is to get more involvement with all the members, the ones that are satisfied. I've taken this personally with my own stuff and what I get involved in. I am on the board at the University of Missouri Extension Council. I joined it. They asked me to, and I didn't say no. I just said yeah. The board, the MFA board, I've got a few more years to it. I'm the chair of this board. I'm the vice chair of the other board, and I got to quit. I don't know if I'm qualified.
we're going to start this question with you, and Steve hit on his response there just briefly, and Steve, I'll give you an opportunity to elaborate if you want, but what is your understanding of the fiduciary duties as a director?
Well, fiduciary responsibility as a director is kind of a mixed bag with co-ops. In a normal corporation, you know, your primary responsibility is to the corporation. You're responsible for the financial wherewithal of the organization, you're responsible for their interaction with their customers, you're responsible for interactions with regulatory agencies, the whole gamut of your business. Cooperatives are a little bit different in that, for a start, you do have that responsibility to the organization, but the organization itself does not exist, but for the fact it has members. If you ever lose sight of that fact, you're lost. You're not going to operate as a cooperative should operate. And it's sometimes it gets missed, and it's unfortunate when it happens. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here. I just think it's really an important distinction to make. We're unlike any other type of organization. We're not Walmart. Walmart has customers. We have members. And it's an important distinction to make. We're not for profit. They're for profit. They're beholden to Wall Street. We're beholden to Main Street. These kinds of things are critically important to the survival of a cooperative, and they define who we are and why we exist as a company. So I hope that's responsive to your question there. But to me, it is the most important thing about a co-op is that member focus and never losing sight of it.
Misty, same question.
I'm definitely not going to go over time. I think this is a really simple, brief answer. The financial responsibility really is just one thing. It's accountability. It's accountability to the members and their families and the lives that they're leading in the Ozark Electric territory. So in my mind, it's just about being accountable to the members.
Dustin, same question. Do you need me to repeat the question, or?
No,
Okay.
Similar, pretty short answer. It's to make sure that the cooperative's in good financial standing for multiple generations to come. I mean, that's our responsibility, is to make sure it's well run and for the members. Right? That's the key thing, is for the members for a long, long time, many generations.
Well, I said what I did in the last answer, that my fiduciary responsibility is listed in a set of policies and bylaws. And it's not always what I want to do. Fiduciary responsibilities is to take care of the membership like you all have said. But it's also more than that. It is I don't have any say individually. I only have say as a board member, and there's 9 of us. So there is each one of us have our own competencies. Each one of us has our own strengths and have our own weaknesses. But in the end, when we gather around the table and talk, 9 competencies around that table together have to be better than just one. And so when the majority of the competencies come together on any issue, whether it be rates or whatever it is, that has to be what we take out of that boardroom as the board members. And if we get to where we are severed or where we're fighting amongst ourselves, and I think that's what takes down co-op more than anything.
Darren, same question on fiduciary.
Well, fiduciary is a trust. It is an accountability to the membership. It's a trust that's afforded to us board members by being elected by the members to represent them, to oversee, to ensure that the co-op itself, which includes the members, that we are financially stable, that we're responsible with the members' money. However, at the same time, and wow, my first board meeting, I remember Patrick, he didn't scold me, but he corrected me very quickly. You don't call them customers, they're members. And that was really ingrained to me, and that was a great lesson to me, that it is made up of the members, and I hold that in great value. And again, it's a trust, it's an accountability that I owe to them, that they've entrusted into me as a board member. And I like what Steve said, we all do bring different things, and when at the end of the day, when we vote, we come together and we're in unity to represent the co-op, which again includes the entire membership. You know, sometimes in executive session, obviously though that information stays within that group, and there are some things that those outside, maybe that's not the best way to say it, but those outside of that executive session may not understand why we did what we did, but we've been entrusted to do the very absolute best we can to take care of that responsibility of representing, accountable, and the trust we've been given.
I started with you, didn't I?
You did,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're going with Misty on the next question,
Okay.
and somewhat related. What should the number one priority of the cooperative be in your mind?
In my mind, it's about building back trust for the members. I feel like that's really been lost. I feel like the members really, through transparency, through communication, we've got to get that back. It's easy to lose and hard to win back, but I think that is really the thing that we need to be focused on.
Say the question one more time, please.
What do you think the number one priority of the cooperative should be?
Well, I think in the short term, education around demand billing. And when I was gathering all my signatures, every single one of them was, I don't understand demand billing. How does it impact me? How do I make it better or worse? What impacts it? That was 24 signatures I think I got, and all 24, universal. So I think that's, in the short term, the critical piece, because I don't think demand billing is going to go anywhere. And I think one of the aspects of it is maybe some reform around the demand billing, and not only the clarity of it, but some potential reform around that. So I think in the short term, those are the vision that I have for it.
Steve?
I would agree with Misty. Building back trust has to be at the top of the list, but also building more involvement from the people that don't distrust us. That's what I want to see, is I want the involvement of the people that are satisfied with what we do.
Okay. Daren?
I guess I'll go a little different direction. Again, when I started 3 years ago, I listen or pay attention to things that are repeated, and something that's repeated in not only our boardroom, but on the state level and the national level at meetings and conferences. The thing that is repeated all the time is safe, reliable, and affordable electricity. And you know, to me, I first thought, well, reliable's got to be number one. But I've heard Patrick say something like this, that our priority should be that we offer safe electricity not only to the members, but our linemen, our guys that provide that for us. We want priority to be safety, that they get to go home to their families at night. Reliability, we hear praise all the time, and I'm proud of our co-op and we've had plenty of outages here lately, and our co-op is usually right on top for getting the power back on quickly. And it's amazing when things are going smooth that you don't hear a lot from the membership, but when there's an outage, ironically, I really don't see much negative, you know, except maybe it's not really negative, but hey, when's the lights going to be on, or when's it going to be in our area? but just the praise to our co-op for, hey, thank you for getting us back on quickly. So reliability is huge. I hear that again, our boardroom, state, national level, very important. And then of course affordability. We may not have quite as much control over that as we think we do sometimes, but we don't have a generator out behind in the parking lot. We purchase our power, so but we do the absolute best we can to make power affordable for the membership.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Well, I think we're kind of all dancing around the same kind of music here. I think member involvement is critically important to the survival of any co-op. The more people we can get involved, that then gives you the opportunity to educate them. But you got to get them involved. You got to get their attention. You got to make believers out of them. Help them understand what I was just talking about a minute ago about the cooperative difference. That they're part of something that's bigger than they are, maybe individually. They belong to something, that they own something, and try to leverage that difference in the relationship that we have with members as opposed to somebody else's customers. So member involvement, critically important, and then you can begin to build the trust that you're talking about, Misty.
Okay, thank you. Dustin, I think you're up next.
Yep.
To start. Give us your opinion, philosophy, or strategy around setting rates and rate design in general.
See, we saved the heavy hitters.
Yeah, I apologize. That is probably the most substantive question that I started you off with. So.
Sure. So, before a few weeks ago, I didn't have a very firm understanding of, where all the rate tiers were and all that right before I sat in on a financial meeting. It's clear to me that the flat kilowatt billing at the 12.5 cents was going to be more expensive than introducing demand. So most people ended up saving money throughout that, right? So to me, setting rates needs to be logical, and it shouldn't, the burden of that shouldn't be bore by some of the more economically challenged folks in our areas. So, that flat rate billing hits everybody the same, but it hits those folks the hardest, and they might be the ones that use the fewest amount of power, the fewest amount of kilowatt hours. So, I would look at that from a tiered standpoint, right? On the commercial side has a tiered rate system. I think the residential side on the demand should also have a tiered rate system, and I think that would help with the more poor side. But even the folks that are very conscious of their demand usage, and the folks that are really stepping it down to, they're well below the average, they should be rewarded for that, right? Whereas the folks that are consistently higher and higher and higher over that average, they should be penalized for it. So I think it should be kind of a tier rate system.
Steve, thoughts?
As the co-op, we have a budget that we set a budget every year. We have a number that we have to have money coming in to cover that budget. So we have three mechanisms to do that. We can do it with KWH, we can do it with a facilities charge, or we can do it with the demand charge. And we decided to introduce the demand to lessen the others because our rate coming from KMO contains two things, energy charges and a demand charge. And our demand is coming up from KMO all the time. It went from $1.2 million a month to now 2024, it's $1.5 million a month. So back in 24, when we introduced the demand, we were getting up to where we were collecting about 90% of that from the membership off of our meters. When we didn't increase the demand, we increased the KWH to cover the budget, but that number went from about 90% down to about 76%, I think it was at the last meeting, that we're collecting on demand. So we're using KWH right now to collect for part of the demand portion of the KMO bill. So in my mind, it is probably simple math to do it, but it is a big number for some people, and it is there's winners and losers in every rate structure, right? So if one of the comments that you made was that you have the people that can't afford it, that don't use very much power, that it's hurting the worst. And I know a lot of our high bill complaints come from people who they don't have the energy efficiency stuff, so their kilowatt hours are really high in the campaign. When they do that, then the demand rate is great for them in reducing the KWH price. So I got to quit again. I didn't think I talked.
Now, I think what he's giving you is a 10-second warning.
I know, but I can't say
You
nothing.
can't wrap up anything in 10 seconds? Okay, all right.
He's just scratching, I'm not sure which.
There. Go ahead.
Well, education is worth a lot, and I think this is a little side note, but the membership does need to understand that our rate structure or design is not just arbitrary, but it's very well thought out. It takes months to come up with a rate design. Like Steve said, really the bottom line is we have our budget. We need to meet that budget, and when demand was introduced as a component, which is a way that we pay for our bill, and like Steve also said, our demand, the memberships, co-ops demand does not cover all, so we have to recover a lot of that from KWH. There's so many ways that you could design your rates. You can do a combination of using all three, or two of the three, or one, but we must sit in the same boardroom, because we've talked about no matter which way you do, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and someone's going to be unhappy. What we have been doing the last at least 3 years is looking at the average user of about 10 kW demand and 1,250 kWh. So we take a component of demand, which helps recover a portion of what we pay for in demand, and then try to make that KWH as low as possible. And then we've kept the facilities charge, which helps recover a lot of those just day-to-day things that need to be covered. But the good thing is that nothing is set except for that year, and we look at this in great detail for 2 to 3 months before we propose a new rate design each year. So we relook at this every single year.
Okay. Mark.
Well, fortunately, through 42 years of being in the industry, I've had an opportunity to participate and lead, in fact, literally dozens of rate studies, and been actively involved in rate design. And you said it right. There are dozens, literally dozens of ways. I'm sorry?
We can't hear you back here.
Uh-oh. There are literally, that's never been a problem for me before. Okay, there are literally dozens of ways to structure rates to recover the revenue needed by the co-op. You mentioned budget a moment ago. That's really where things start. The board's responsibility is to scrutinize that budget as hard as they possibly can to make sure that we're going after the things the co-op really needs to operate, as opposed to things that are what I call wants. So if you can rest assured that you've done your job there and you've squeezed the budget down as much as you possibly can, then that lends itself better to coming up with rates that are going to be acceptable to the membership. But it's a balancing act. There are winners and losers. I've said this to folks online several times. It takes a lot of time and effort. It's part science and it's part art to try to balance the needs of low-use folks that are maybe not using very many kilowatt hours. They've got a second service out there just for a barn and maybe a beer fridge or whatever. And then you got folks that are heavy users that maybe have a large home or a big family using lots of kilowatt hours. Well, those two sets of needs are going to be entirely different. You've got to try to come up with a structure that balances those two needs and creates as the smallest amount of turmoil possible.
Thank you.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, so when we think about rate structures, all roads lead back to the budget and the financial needs of our co-op to make sure that we are operating to meet our members' needs. And I really feel like the responsibility of the board is just to be good stewards, right? Good stewards of that budget, and make sure that we are being held accountable and that we are tightening our belt wherever we can and making sure that power is available and we're doing what we need to support the members and their families. And I think once you do all of that, then that tells us what we need to do. How, like Steve just said, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. The one thing I will add at the end of that is that I do think that we need to get creative. I think there's a way we've always been doing it, right? It seems like everything's in this funnel, KMO, associated, all of that, and I just think it might be worth picking that rock up. Let's look at, there may not be, but I think it's worth really looking at maybe creative ways, new ways to do things so that we can really run an efficient co-op and then make sure that our members are protected against the substantial rate increases that we've seen in the last 12 months.
Okay, thanks. Steve, we're back to you.
Great.
And Mark hit on this a little bit earlier. If you could describe your understanding of the difference in looking at the finances and the needs of a not-for-profit versus a for-profit entity.
I've really never been in any for-profits. I'm a farmer. I raise cattle, so I'm actually a non-profit. But my feeling is that with a for-profit company, that you are responsible to Wall Street, but it's the shareholders that you have to answer to, and they're the ones that you're trying to make the money for. With the co-op, those shareholders are the members, and there isn't any reason for the co-op to make any money, other than when we have to borrow money, you have to be in pretty good standing with your financial institutions in order to do that. So you do have to make a margin of some sort throughout the year, and then give back that to the patrons. And so any margins that we make, any margins that we budget for are to handle our financial obligations. Any margins that we make are then handed back to or credited back to the members that we have. And right now, I think we're paying capital credits back to 17 years right now, I think is where we're at. We made that a goal to stay within 20 years a few years ago, and we got to there, and that costs money to do that, and you don't get to take that off the margin when we do pay that money out. But and that's another philosophy, or you could do it however you wanted to. You don't have to pay those guys, but I think that's a cooperative's responsibility is to pay back the members that were investing the money whenever you made it. And I think that those two things are the difference that I see is who the real profiteers are.
Thanks. Daren?
Well, my, I guess, limited understanding on that is I did work for a profit, Stainless Steel Limited and Precision Stainless in Springfield years ago, and worked in the office and was around a lot of the salesmen and even the CEO occasionally, and all they ever talked about was make money, make more money. That it's a totally different conversation at a co-op. We exist as a service to serve the people that owned by and serve the people that we're owned by. And our responsibility is to recover that budget that exists to serve the community, to serve the membership well. And then, as Steve said, I hadn't understood what capital credits was until I got on board, and it's really a beautiful system that you pay back that overture right back to the membership. And
All right, thanks. Mark?
I won't spend a whole lot of time talking about investor-owned utilities or for-profit companies like that. I think most folks are pretty familiar with Walmart and Dell and all these mega companies. It's important, though, to differentiate ourselves from them. And for years, and through several different co-ops I've been involved with, I've taken a mission statement with me to each and every one of them, and it goes like this. Name your co-op. OEC is a member-owned, not-for-profit service organization that exists for one reason, and one reason only. That's to meet the needs of its members. I think if you just kind of think about that one sentence, it clearly defines who we are and why we exist as a company. It doesn't matter what kind of a co-op you are, but in our case, we're an electric co-op. We're member-owned. That's critical. I mean, you get to participate in an election, put people on a board. We're not for profit. That's definitely different than the investor-owned utilities like Liberty and some of the other big companies that you've seen come and go. And we're a service organization. That's what we do. We don't deliver a product per se, not something you can lay your hands on anyway safely. We deliver a service. It's electric service. And we do all that for one reason only. That's to meet the needs of our members. And if we stay focused on the fact that we're there for that purpose, we'll succeed. But it's a key differentiator between us and the bad guys.
Misty, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody understands that a for-profit company is meant to return profits to the shareholders, whoever they may be, whether they're public or private. Certainly in a nonprofit, our sole goal here, and I'm just going to echo what you just said, is to serve our members and their families and to make sure that they can live their lives in the Ozark electric districts with affordable and reliable electricity. That is our number one goal. I do think there certainly are some similarities in running organizations, whether they be profit or not-for-profit. There certainly are some similarities. One is lending, right? There are covenants involved with lending, with big lending packages. Those things are very similar, whether it be profit or not-for-profit. They're big lending packages. Those are things that you have experience with if you've been in the corporate world. And also operating off of a budget. You're getting money in, whether it be called, revenue from our members or sales, you're getting revenue in, and then how are we spending that, right? How are we spending that? Are we being good stewards? Are we making sure that we can be really good housekeeping with the money so that we can deliver the best affordable rates to our members? And I just go back to, we've all seen some significant increases in the last 12 months, and so really feel like that needs a real close look.
Dustin?
So I do work for a for-profit engineering company that happens to be private. It's not like a public offering or anything, but I live in that kind of for-profit world. I was the treasurer of my HOA when I lived in St. Louis, so I did live a little bit on that not-for-profit side, at least in the administrative standpoint. And very similar aspects to, I was collecting monies to help run the facility and snow removal, all those things. It's the exact same type of thing. These folks have definitely, hit it pretty hard here, but the efficiencies still exist that can be found that can help with returning the investment to the members. And from a customer experience standpoint, it's a member experience, right? Sub the word out. It's the same type of thing. We can easily find efficiencies as long as we're delivering safe, reliable power. There's efficiencies to be found somewhere in there that we can work towards and find a good mix to return that investment to the members.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I think we're with Daren next, right? What would be or is your leadership approach to working with senior staff and management of the cooperative?
Well, first I want to say that our senior staff is fantastic, and I'm proud of the team that, for the most part, Patrick has assembled. And I have we have the opportunity every month to sit around a boardroom and a board table and listen to reports from each department head and get the department heads, the senior staff are very accessible. I'm able to communicate with them, you know, for minor things, but the chain of command would always be to go through Patrick for anything that's that needs to go through him because he leads that team. But the relationship, the working relationship with our senior staff is very good, and I appreciate the staff we have.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, I've been blessed, to be honest with you. I've been blessed to have been able to work with cooperative staff from all across the country, and in particular at the staff level at the co-ops that I've worked with and worked for throughout my entire career. I bring with me, though, an extra dynamic to that in that not just working with staff, I have worked with boards all along that way as well. In the boardroom, you know, I've seen about every dynamic that you can imagine over 42 years, different personalities, different skill sets, and I've been able to work closely with those folks to get the most out of them through all that time. So I think it's mostly just an experiential thing where I'm bringing that to the table, where I've got experience not only working with staff, but working with boards, and I think that helps make me qualified to participate in the selection process.
I'm going to ask you to read that question one more time.
Sure.
I want to make sure I answer it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would your approach be, your leadership approach be to working with senior staff and the cooperative management?
Okay. So I think leading with respect is the first thing that I've learned throughout my leadership career, my management career, is always to have a level of respect. And so that's just the person that I am. That's how I show up. The next thing that I would say is very important that I've always learned is successful is listen. And when I say listen, I don't mean I'm not talking thinking about the next thing I'm going to say while you're talking. I mean really listening. What are you saying to me? Really giving what you're saying to me the weight, you know, giving it time. Think about it. Walk it around the block. Now, I say all that, then we'll tell you that that doesn't mean agreement. There's going to be, I feel like if there's not a healthy disagreement, healthy discourse, that we're really not moving forward. In all of the boardrooms I've sat in, there's always been disagreement and those discussions. It doesn't mean that you're not respecting the other person or that those conversations aren't handled very professionally, but I would expect to be able to handle disagreement, you know, in those meetings because it should be happening. That's how you get to the best answer. One of my most favorite quotes are, you know, if you're a smart person, you surround yourself with smart people who disagree with you because you get a better answer when that happens. So.
Thank you. Dustin.
I'm going to go the quote route too.
Okay, go for it.
So Steve Jobs, this is kind of how my philosophy has always been in my leadership role. Steve Jobs has a quote that says you hire smart people. You don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they tell you what to do. So that's kind of always been my leadership philosophy. Doesn't mean I agree with what they say. We can have a conversation around it. And, you know, with that, in the cooperative sense, right, is the members also get a voice in that, right? And that's the same way that I would also be a leader with. So again, you know, they're smart people that run the cooperative, and their input absolutely is valid and has a lot of weight with me. Doesn't mean I agree, and we'll have a conversation, and through the civil discourse, we'll come to the best course of action.
Steve?
My leadership, I think one of my best leadership skills probably is the listening part, being able to draw things out of people around the table. Patrick and Patrick is the CEO, that's the one I lean on the most. He does give us access to all of his senior staff. I try not to bother them too much, but and being the chair, I do talk to Patrick more than maybe some of the other ones do. I also am on the Canewell board. We ride down there, have an hour, a couple hours a month to talk and talk about different things. But my personal leadership style is to listen and to react, not real fast maybe, but to try to hear exactly what not necessarily what the problem is, but why are you asking this question, or why are we coming to this, why are we at this spot? If with the board, with the circumstances that have happened in this last year, when we got our 3 new board members on, when you guys got the 3 new board members on last year, it has been a learning experience for me listening to them, because they all are very vocal, they want to know things, and we've allowed them to ask all the questions that they want to ask, and we've stayed longer to answer those. That's my style, is maybe staying around too long, listening too much, maybe. It has lengthened meetings, it has taken more time. I'm probably out of time too, but yeah, I would say that we do listen. Out of these meetings last year came the voting. You know, we want more voting. We're doing that this year, so I would say that that's my style, being a listener, being a puller together.
Did I circle it there?
Yeah,
Sorry. By the time we get through it, I can't remember where we started. All right, so then we're going to Mark. And this is the last question that I have, and then I've got a couple here from folks who are in attendance. Can you explain your understanding of the current declared national energy emergency and what impact, if any, this places on or has on Ozark Electric?
Well, I can tell you that the concept of a national energy emergency has been festering for years and years and years. The previous administration in the White House was anti-coal, anti-fossil fuel of any kind. They went to great lengths to bring about changes in regulations to try to ensure that, number one, there would be no new fossil fuel type power generation built, and number two, that those that are already built were going to be decommissioned as quickly as possible. And that's what's primarily brought about the crisis, if you will. You couple that with the fact that demands are growing like crazy across the country for electricity. It makes the problem doubly bad. Now, we're being told today that the current administration has a different concept in mind, and that they're going to scuttle a lot of the rules that were created over the last few years and take some of the pressure off of some of the plants that were planned to be decommissioned and not decommission them anytime soon, to allow other technologies to have an opportunity to be further developed. Things like solar, things like wind, in particular things like new nuclear. You know, and if they're successful in developing those technologies in a timely manner, throw enough money at it, enough research at it, we should be able to avert the emergency and try to right the ship and get things headed back in the right direction, where, as you said, you know, rates and electricity becomes affordable.
Yeah, I think when I think about that, I think abrupt changes are really catastrophic, right? When there's very short deadlines about this has to be phased out or that has to be phased out, I think those short deadlines can be very disruptive to our energy pipeline, if you will. So I feel like I think some of those things are going to be relaxed, some of those deadlines, to help us better prepare for different ways to provide power. I had the opportunity to be in Germany last year and was talking to a person about their energy, and they were in crisis mode because they had a very quick pull out of nuclear on this day, and they have so much manufacturing, it left them crippled. They were just crippled. And the lesson that I took away from that conversation was you can't just pull the rug very abruptly. That abrupt change is too catastrophic to our current system. So that's kind of high level, but that's what I think about it.
Dustin?
So I pay attention to this issue with a different lens in the broadband space. The rise of AI has dramatically accelerated the need for power across the country. We're fortunate here to have a couple of things that is very attractive to AI: cheap land, lots of water. Those are two things that are going to draw AI to our back door. So data centers, AI, most of you have probably heard they've restarted, they're going to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. They've pulled 2 more plants out of mothballs. The need for power is going to dramatically grow in the next 10 years. And we have to be positioned to either capitalize on that or ensure our reliable, cheap power is still affordable and still available for our members.
Steve?
I think we're very fortunate to be here in Missouri and have Associated as our generator. They are probably, they're one of the biggest generation companies in the United States. And they're sitting right in the middle of a bunch of regional power organizations where they can sell extra power. So they can generate as much power as they can, and if we don't use it, they can sell it so they can make some money. However, whenever we look at our goal or our mission being to have safe, reliable, affordable power, I really think that it is quickly going to safe and reliable, and we're going to throw the affordable out, because the Associated building the 2 new gas plants that they're building, they are called peakers. So they whenever these peaks happen that we talk about that are our problems, then they can turn those on and ramp them up and have them up in 15 minutes. Now, that's great because they can get by with some environmental stuff because they're not running all the time. So those numbers, they satisfy some EPA regulations and all that. And so when they do that, though, the cost per megawatt is I mean, it's one of the most expensive that you can have. Now, as we bring those online for peakers and the demand increases, then we're going to start using those all the time because those companies will pay for that. And so it'll be a supply and demand deal where I don't know what I just think that the affordability part is going to have to be really managed hard somehow. I don't know. I mean, it scares me to think about what this is going to be like. And the other issue I see with this is that this happens every 4 or 8 years. Whenever there's a change in the White House, then all those numbers get, and so the people that build these things, it takes multiple years to build them, and you end up not being able to get it done during that administration, and then whenever you go, and I'm not even looking at it, whenever it goes, whenever the administration changes, all the regulations change, and now we got to take this stuff down. So, sorry, I'll go 55.
Well, not to get too political really, but I can appreciate that our current administration has been very proactive, at least in declaring first the national energy emergency, because like you said, this didn't just happen. It's been ongoing, and I was going to say something about the AI data center as well. I don't know what those are going to require, but I've heard, up to 40 to 50% more energy to run that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's obviously going to take a lot. Is it way more than that? Yeah. But it did make sense for the executive orders to end reliable and affordable coal, and the overreach of the EPA regulations with what was working. However, as our co-op and on the state level and the national, we got to pay attention to what's coming. This didn't just happen in the last 6 months. It's been a long time coming, and I think there's obviously with technology, the way it explodes in the last, especially 2 to 3 decades, we're going to see some amazing things in the next decade. It may happen in 2 or 3 years, but and we need to be flexible and ready to get on board with something that's working. But in my opinion, currently coal is working, natural gas is working, and I still think it's, in my opinion, it's affordable, it's a lot reliable, and yeah.
Okay. We're going to move on now to questions. I've got 2 from folks who've arrived, and I believe we are with Misty, right?
Okay.
Right?
I think so.
And I'm just going to read these exactly as they're written here, and you can answer the best you can. Why are the expense accounts not itemized in public?
I can't answer that.
I know you can't. You want to answer a different question.
Do I want to answer a different question?
I mean, you
Make
got 2
one up?
minutes.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I think that goes to kind of one of the reasons why I chose to run is because I do feel like there has been, whether perceived or real, it's of secrecy, right? There's some things that seem like are secret about our co-op, and I think the members are questioning that. The members that I talk to are questioning that. So that's why I feel like transparency and really bringing the members into those discussions, it shouldn't be closed doors. It shouldn't be that way. So that's the answer that I'd have to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dustin?
I guess I would have a clarifying question. Is it expense reports of the employees doing the work or expense reports of the board?
Not my question.
I guess-
You answer it any way you want.
Expense reports of the board should be made public. That's just a transparency thing that I believe. Everyday employees that are, no, that's not what, the board should have the transparency though.
Can you read the question again? I'm sorry.
Why are the expense accounts not itemized and public?
I mean, there are accounting standards. I'm going to take it a different direction. I'm thinking they're taking the expense accounts on the books. And I mean, there's accounting standards. I don't know how much in-depth you go. I think if a member wants that stuff, there is a mechanism to request it and go in and do it. I don't think it necessarily is ever going to be out on. It is definitely not public information. It might be member information that you had to go through a few hoops to make sure that you were a member and you were going to use it in good faith for the co-op and not use it against the co-op.
I don't personally hear a lot of questions like that, but what few that's been brought to the attention of the board as a whole, we've invited certain ones to come and express those requests to receive this or that as far as expenses, and obviously there are some things that are proprietary that we have to keep within the boardroom, and especially if it's in executive session. But yeah, we definitely believe in transparency as a board and as a co-op, but there are some things that are proprietary that have to be protected.
Mark?
Well, without some clarification on that question, it's hard to really give a decent answer, but you guys have, pretty much every one of you have touched upon it. Transparency is really one of the keys to the future of the co-op, and to help the co-op regain some of the trust that maybe has been lost over the course of the last year or 18 months. So I'm hopeful that that'll become a focus for the board going forward, a focus for Patrick and the staff going forward, to look for ways to enhance that. And I think it'll pay dividends to you.
Okay. This is the last question that we've got, and it is, and again, I'll read it word for word. Would you propose a change to the existing rate structure? If so, what change, and how does it address potential budget shortfalls? If not, why? Please be specific and provide backing data.
So I guess I've seen the books for maybe an hour and a half total, so I can't really answer that in the full amount of detail that this person is looking for, but absolutely I think there's a possibility to look at the rate structure. Given more time, I can certainly come up with some solutions to offset costs with, I talked a little bit about earlier the tiered residential system, right? I mean, that's one example. Have I ran the numbers on the half hour I saw the books to pay for that? I haven't, right? But hopefully I get a chance to do that, and I can go to work on that. So.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Read it again.
Would you propose a change to the existing rate structure? If so, what change, and how does it address potential budget shortfalls? If not, why? Please be specific and provide backing. David.
So, I mean, I'm involved in the one that we have right now, right? Would I change it? I probably would. If I could go back several years, I would change the way we did what we did. I would, as soon as we got our meters in where we could collect residential demand, I would have put it out just like we did on the bill. I would have stopped COVID, and it wouldn't have happened, so we could have continued on our plan. We would have introduced it at 50 cents or $1 or whatever, so that everybody could see that it's going to be a signature for that house. It's not a big increase, or it's not it is just what it is. I mean, it's going to be that number. You can try to reduce it if you want, but it's going to be hard to reduce, and it is what it is. If you then can look at those numbers and see that's what's going to happen, then as we went through COVID and we could stick to our budget and calculate our needs like we should have, like we were doing, and taking other avenues to make sure that we covered the budget by not charging the members. If anything, we gave too much to the members during COVID. We didn't collect enough money during COVID. And whenever we came out of the other end and the financials or the books were where they were at, and some of those ratios that I was talking about, as they were going down, we had to do something, and that's what we chose to do. Yeah, if we'd gone back and done it, if I could do it all over again, I would have done it more gradually like we had planned on doing in the first place.
Well, the beauty of the rate design is that it's ever changing, and we look at it, relook at it, reevaluate every year, and I'm happy with what we're doing right now because, as I mentioned earlier, every home, every resident has a signature, and by having the 3 components, people have said, have no control. We don't have absolute control. If you want electricity, you're going to have to use it. If you want to use your appliance, you're going to have to turn it on. But I think with the demand, which is necessary, that I didn't understand 2 years ago, still have a lot to learn. But by us being charged demand, it makes perfect sense to recover at least a portion of that. And the member, including myself, we have a certain level of control with what we use. When demand first started, I guess people still thought that board members get free electricity. I don't know where that even came from, but I even was starting to be very careful with especially when I went out in the shop, not to flip on the 2,000 watts of lights and start up the welder and air compressor. And I think the 3 components are still very good. However, again, the beauty of it is we get to relook at that every single year, and it may be something completely different next year. I've never heard anybody saying, this is the best and it's going to be this way forever, because our discussion will last 2 to 3 months this fall and winter to figure out what is best and fairest for the entire membership.
Mark?
Well, I've had that same question posed to me several times by different people online and Facebook pages and web pages, different things, emails. Absolutely, I think there's plenty of room for change. There's, like we talked about at one of the previous questions, there are any number of different designs that could be looked at. They all need to be evaluated to see which one returns the revenue stream that the co-op needs to keep the doors open, but also disadvantages the smallest number of people possible for a given design. And there's always going to be people that are winners and folks that are losers anytime you make a change to rate design. So I think there's plenty of room for a change to happen. I think it needs to be carefully studied. I've thrown some examples out to a couple of people just as examples of approaches that might be taken. But to sit here tonight and give you hardcore, my gosh, this is the number it ought to be and here's how it ought to be structured without benefit of a much more thorough look at the finances and all the other billing determinants, all the kilowatt hours, all those things. You can't make that kind of a statement from a podium here tonight. So I think there's plenty of room for change. It needs to be carefully studied, and several different options need to be evaluated.
Okay, so the first part of that question was, do I advocate for an existing rate change? 100% yes. I would advocate for a change to our existing rate schedule. What would that be? Well, I can't tell you specifically, but one thing that I'm really interested in is exploring this 15-minute increment that we have on our demand charge, it being the highest 15 minutes during our billing period. That seems to be a kind of an elusive creature that really confuses the members. Like, well, if I have to turn on these 4 things, you know, which 15-minute increment is going to throw my household budget out? So I would really want to look at that. Is there a different way to do that? I don't think demand charge is going anywhere. I kind of think it's baked into the, so I don't have my no demand hat on. I'm not saying that, but I do think there's ways to modify it. I do think that it's really confusing, and I would absolutely advocate for a way to change that to make it better understood, and that whole highest 15-minute in your billing period doesn't make any sense to me. Third thing of that question was, how would you then address budget shortfall? Well, I'm not convinced there would be a budget shortfall by making adjustments to the existing rate schedule. All those things have to be baked into a P&L, and you have to see where you're at, and that's what drives how much we have to charge the members, right? How much we have to pay for our electricity. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that by doing those things equals a budget shortfall. So.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I'm going to go off script a little bit, John, if you don't mind, and just say, here's your chance. Do you want to change any of your answers?
I've got 3 of them I need to continue.
Well, no, here's the good news. We're going to do this 2 more times, and probably most of the questions are going to be similar. So you'll have an opportunity to amend and revise, as they say. So any last comments you want to make, seriously?
Yeah, I do. I appreciate you guys that showed up. There's lots of faces that I saw last year, and I know that this is a lot different atmosphere than it was last year. But this is how it's going to have to be. It is going to have to be engagement, because we're not trying to hide anything. We're just trying to do the best we can for the total membership. And so I don't know how to get that across to you. That last year I felt like that everybody out there hated me, and maybe you still do, and that's okay, I guess. But what I'm wanting is, I want to get enough people engaged that we have at our board meeting, we have a bigger percentage of people that vote. And whenever those people come out and vote, if I can, and I'm saying 10%, so, or 30%, because I needed about 7,000 or 8,000 votes for me to be happy. If 7,000 or 8,000 people come out and vote, and when we count the votes at the end of the day, and they say, Steve, we don't agree with the way you're thinking anymore, I'm totally all right about that, because that's how a co-op should work.
Steve?
Yes, sir.
With what the answer you just gave, and I have, after listening to this question of it, and it's just a simple one, would you be opposed as board members to have a quarterly or biannually board meeting with the membership, go around the different districts, so you are transparent?
A meeting like this one?
Yeah.
Totally.
Can I address that?
Sure. Go ahead, sir.
Prior to last year, they attempted to do that on multiple occasions, and nobody showed up.
Well, that last year showed that there was interest.
That's right.
And that was something that the new board members were kind of hoping to, the membership was hoping to have. So that's why I asked the question with the prospective board members, that would you want in the bylaws or whatever it took, either have quarterly or biannually or some way that there is a communication with membership instead of this elusiveness, and that way you were trying to be transparent.
That can be brought back to the board. But let me finish up with everybody before we have any other questions. And I'm not sure how much time we have to do that, but let me finish up with everybody having an opportunity to speak.
Well, I just want to thank, again, like Steve said, just thank you all for being here. I too would love to see those that are, quote, supporters of the co-op to be more vocal. It's kind of like when, like I said earlier, with the outages, you find out, hey, people do love and cherish this co-op. And when I'm not a, what do you call it, a keyboard cowboy or whatever, but I don't fight my fights online. If somebody's got questions, I always appreciate them just coming directly to any of us, and we're all very approachable and just average normal people. So I would appreciate, more just transparency on both sides to let us know what you're thinking, because just to say that it's not transparent or being elusive, that is never ever the intention. I have great respect for this board and this entire co-op.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Well, like everybody else, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know you had plenty of other things that would have been a whole lot more fun to do, so appreciate you being here. It's an honor to be here with these folks and have a chance to field some questions from you, and hopefully you feel like you got something out of the evening and you've come to know us a little bit better, and maybe that'll help you make a better decision when it comes time to vote in July. I'm like Steve in a lot of respects from the standpoint of I want to see more member engagement. I'd love to see a much bigger turnout somehow or another to increase participation in important decisions like selecting a board member, in dealing with amendments to the bylaws and those sorts of things. It's a shame to have such a small percentage of our overall membership, and we've got close to 30,000 members, but you wind up with 1,000 people making the decision for 30,000. And I would much rather see a big percentage of our folks have an opportunity to, in some way, shape, or form, to be able to participate in that election process and in those important decisions that get made. So, hopefully, regardless of who wins going forward, I hope there's a big push to try to improve participation.
So I was one of the people in the after hours last year that was irritated. So I was one of those people that you're.
I remember it.
Oh, do you? Okay. So I say that, and then and I thought to myself, okay, well I can sit here and be mad, or I can do something. So I'm sitting up here. So I decided, after 30 plus years, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to try to impact this. I would not have done this while I was working. I'm retired now because I really want to go deep on my involvement on both my education in this process and this opportunity to talk with all the members. I love this idea that you had. It kind of gives, you get a kind of a bit larger audience, but it's really important to me to make the time to stay in touch with people, and not just in my district, right? With all of the Ozark Electric. And that's going to take time and effort on my part, and I'm ready to do it. So.
Dustin?
Again, appreciate everybody for being here. To everybody up on stage here, it takes a lot to say, raise your hand and say, I can help. And so appreciate you guys as well. A lot of comments I definitely agree with. One thing we talked about, getting engagement from the members. Well, I think we have to do something. We can't just expect the members to come to us, right? We have to be prepared to go out and meet them. So absolutely, I agree. That's an excellent point. I think that there's some work to be done with the member engagement, with the transparency, with the education standpoint, but we can't do it on our terms. We have to go out and meet those folks and be prepared to engage them at the level that they want to be engaged, whether that's on social media, whether that's face-to-face, to put a tag on the website, say, explain demand billing. How many people have went to that link? I would be super curious. Probably not a lot, right? So, which is why we have an education gap. So we didn't meet those folks. So I think that's where I would like to try to start. I have a background in customer experience, member experience, and I think I would try to work towards fulfilling that member engagement.
Okay, great. I'm told that we've got a pretty hard stopping point here, and I know if you've got other questions and things, I'm sure these folks will be hanging around out here outside while they're cleaning up inside, so that, so if you all are willing to answer questions, I'm sure that folks would like to talk to you, but thank you all for coming.